Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a video on Faker's mid Xayah. So mid Xayah is starting to get played a lot in Korea. It's been played I think by Doivy first and then Chovy and now Faker. So I thought we'd take a look at it. I think it's actually pretty decent and I'll go into the full reasons at the end of the video. So I'll probably like title summary and the timestamp somewhere if you do just want to go to the reasons. The build is the like tier lethality build. So we've got area, we've got a lot of early game runes, mainly going to be focused on poking our opponent down. So go ahead and copy these. I guess if you wanted to take other things, you could maybe consider like Gathering Swarm or something instead, but I think if you're playing this sort of build, you're looking to play very aggressive in the early game. One nice thing about Xayah mid, again, I guess I'll just talk about this at the end, but I think it being a flex pick is quite good, and also it has quite a lot of decent matchups mid, and especially with the poke build, it's very good into champs without much sustain. You can see Faker recognizes really well that he just like destroys Yasuo in trades in the early game. Especially with exhaust, there's not much Yasuo can do every time he goes for CS. He's going to get harassed, and he can take extended trades whenever he has his W up like this. So going to crash 2 waves, I think could have crashed 3 waves instead, but I honestly don't think it makes a huge difference. But we'll kind of see what he does with his priority because he already warded, so I imagine he's just going to harass under the tower instead. Actually sort of like that. I'll just point this out. So one thing is that when you're playing these like early game like bully champions, like you really want to punish people when they come up to the wave, right? So if you haven't warded at level 1, like you're gonna go need to ward now, right? But that's gonna mean that you're not harassing under towers. So that's something you can do when you're against a ganking champion that, or rather when you're against a jungle champion that's not too scary on the ganks, because like some champions, if you ward against them at level 1, they'll then punish you by not having a ward at level 3. But against a champion like Nocturne, you don't need to care that much, and I think that early ward allowed him to harass quite a bit. So here we have a few options. We could freeze the wave, but I actually don't think we need to, and there's a few reasons for that. First off, Xayah is very, very good at harassing under towers, so it's not like other champions, say like Cassio, or a melee champion where they can't really harass them at all under tower. So I think could keep looking to push also because of the jungle matchup, like it's very much champs that don't want to gank, so there's no like setting up a gank for Diana or anything. You want to push, try and get some priority, so I do overall like the choice to push instead. Although to be honest, if you did freeze here, I feel like it wouldn't be that bad, but I think pushing is slightly better. Obviously maxing the Q first because we're going the poke build. You can see Yasuo is actually doing a pretty good job of getting lots of the CS, but he is kind of like suffering in the HP department. It's sort of weird that he took bone plating because I feel like second wind is much better. Okay, yeah, he kind of has to get bailed out by his jungler here. This is kind of an unfortunate situation where like there's not really anything you can do about it. Like Faker kind of disrespects, takes a lot more damage than he should, but because his jungler is just like clearing, you kind of just have to accept that your jungler will be building like a CS advantage off of this, or well, rather you hope. One problem here is that because he took so much damage, he actually can't shove this next wave, which it's not really a problem because he doesn't lose anything, but I think he could have pushed this wave, and that would have allowed him to buy probably just, I'm not sure if it would have allowed him to get an extra, like allowed him to get the serrated Dirk or something, but I think it would have been slightly better, so maybe a slight misplay, but he doesn't like fall behind off it, right? So I still think he's in a pretty good spot. So yeah, he did base with more gold than Yasuo, so he does have a slight item advantage. Although, actually, did he base with more gold than Yasuo? Actually, can't remember. Maybe they're... Oh yeah, well he has a very slight advantage because but he has invested that into the tier, so it's not like a huge gold advantage because it's like, well, it's a gold advantage, but it hasn't been converted into stats yet. Nice trades here. I'm gonna go back and just like explain this a little bit because I was talking. So here, Diana on the Krug, on the Raptor. Wait, you guys see the map? Yeah, you guys do the map. So Diana's on the Raptors. We look for a gank here. Yasuo now with no wind wall has no trading tool for like what, like 20 seconds or 25 seconds or something. So Yasuo is very vulnerable here to getting harassed, and also getting ganked by Diana. So he has to be quite careful. Ooh, that was a very, like, okay, it went bad, but I think okay, we got the kill. I think the idea there was super sick. I would not have done that. That was really nicely played by Faker, like the flash E. Not even sure what that ability's called, but that was very, very nice. And they managed to get the kill on the Yasuo. I think if Yasuo had flashed, he was probably still dead because Diana could have followed with flash. I'll just like again go back a bit. So the reason this happens, guys, is while we can't see Nocturne at this point, we know that Nocturne is on the bot side of the map because we saw Nocturne come from there. So Yasuo's actually hugging the wrong side of the lane. In this sort of situation, like if Yasuo's jungler is bot side, Not sure where his vision is. Obviously, we don't know, but if he doesn't have any vision on top side, right, he can't hug to it. He can't be here because otherwise he's gankable by Diana. So the main problem here, Faker, he's hugging to the correct side with his jungler. Yasuo is not, so he gets punished by being ganked. I guess he could have flashed early here, actually, and maybe survived. But, like, the thing is, you could look at this and be like, oh, like, maybe if Yasuo uses his flash better, like, he lives. And maybe that's true, right? But I think the like, core issue is that Yasuo was hugging to the wrong side of the lane. And that's something that you guys should actually kind of think about. Is not just that specifically, but, like, oftentimes when you make a mistake, there's actually, like, a bigger problem, you know? And sometimes it can be hard to find that, but you should just, like, just have a like quick think, I guess, when you do make a mistake and see if there's like a bigger issue rather than just like the final straw that led to, you know, you getting punished for whatever mistake you made. So now with the serrated Dirk and getting the kill on the Yasuo, definitely the item advantage is very in Xayah's favor now. Also has a level advantage, so probably going to be looking for some pretty aggressive trades here. Maybe scared of the jungle here. I'm not sure if the enemy team saw Diana base. It could be that he's just scared of the Nocturne level 6 while he doesn't have flash. I imagine that's probably the reason. They're kind of being respectful here while Diana's off the map. Honestly, kind of like it. I think I might have died there playing aggressive while Diana was in base, but, like, you know, probably shouldn't. He does have the R, but obviously without flash means that he just kind of, like, gets tethered by Nocturne and is going to die regardless. Now that Nami's near him and Diana's back on the map, it should be a bit safer to push this in, but still being a bit skeptical, I think, probably because the Alistar hasn't shown in a while, and I think Alistar's base timing was pretty similar to Nami's, so can expect him to be sort of similar place on the map. If he can get this wave in, he'll feel a lot happier. Yeah, there's definitely someone here, the way he's popping. Yep, very nice. Faker played that very well. Not really in a micro sense. Well, he didn't play it bad in a micro sense, right? But, like, that was very obviously Faker extremely good game knowledge. There was a lot of things going on there. There was, like, the base timings. There was the bot lane missing. There was, like, the level 6 on the Nocturne. So there was, like, a lot to consider there. And Faker considered pretty much everything I can see. And, yeah, obviously managed to avoid any kind of semblance of a gank there. So Diana's doing really good stuff on the top lane. And so far, Faker hasn't really had to do anything. I think a lot of his windows have been kind of shut down by the enemy jungler. Like, he had that one time where Yasuo was very low at level 3 where he couldn't do much. And obviously just then he had to play quite safe. So generally, kind of your play pattern as Xayah, you have like a lot of options, right? Like a lot of the ADCs, they have to like pressure the lane phase really hard to be relevant. Champs like Lucian mid or Tristana mid. But a champion like Xayah, like you have a lot of options because you have CC, you scale well, you've got wave clear. She's just got many more options than other ADC champions, and I actually like her a lot more than say like Kai'Sa for example, because I think that she has like a variety of these play patterns, and also her play pattern isn't super difficult. You know, you've got extra safety in your ult, and you also you don't have to like be really good at positioning, you know, maximizing your auto attacks, because you're mainly going to be playing more of like a spellcaster build. You know, you can see like just mainly looking for QE trades and then like auto attacks if they go for CS. And I do think that makes the like bar of execution quite a bit lower, at least for Lethali's Eye. I think Crit Size is like probably quite a bit more difficult, but I wouldn't really know because I'm not really a Xayah player, or like, you know, an ADC Xayah player. So pushing this in, got Nami in the wings here, but Alistar is still missing, so I have to be a bit careful. Yeah, so playing a bit safe. Alistar shows top, means he's going to push this wave in. Are we going to move into the top river? Yeah, this will be kind of interesting because it's a 3v3, but obviously it's Yasuo Nocturne Akali. Akali doesn't have her ult. I'm not sure if Faker knows this, but they should win a topside 3v3, I think, with Akali no ult. Okay, doesn't matter. They don't fight there. I think both teams were just like being around for the Herald after Alistar ganks top, but not much to do here. One thing I also quite like about Xayah mid is that you have like a lot of the ADCs mid, for example, they kind of like hard counter some champs and get hard countered by other champs. And the reason for that is that like I think a lot of people have this kind of the wrong way round, because it's very different mid than bot. Like in mid lane, ADCs actually kind of destroy assassin. And that's like very different from the rest of the game. And the reason that's normally different is because if you think of an ADC compared to an assassin, like typically the ADC is like, because they're playing bot lane and sharing XP, they're down like a couple levels, and if they ever fall behind, like either they die or something, they're just like very, very behind compared to the assassin. But in mid lane, if you play well, ADCs actually just like bully out assassin champs very hard in the early game. So like champions like Lucian and Tristana are very, very good against these like melee assassins like your Katarinas, Silas's, Akali's, you know, champs like that. But typically they're kind of countered by the longer range mages, and that's because they're reliant on these like auto attack trades. But a champion like Xayah, where, well, the lethality Xayah in particular, where it's more about poking, not only has the like strong laning phase to deal with like these assassin champions or these melee champions, but also has like the ability to trade against these range champs. So pretty easy here, can just ult over the Yasuo ult. Okay, Diana flash ults. Nice sidestep. Is this guy dead? He's very low. Okay, flashes, they get the kill. So here you can see, honestly, Yasuo doesn't have too many options into the Xayah. There's like a lot of things. I think taking the exhaust is very smart. There's like a lot of things Yasuo kind of has to bait out. Like we've talked about before, how there are like important cooldowns and stuff. But for Xayah, it's like if Yasuo ever wants to fully trade on her, it's like not only does he have to get out her E, he probably has to get out her ult and maybe her exhaust as well. So there's like a lot of cooldowns for Yasuo to have to bait out. And like, I think if Xayah plays well, it shouldn't be too feasible. And I think ultimately that is like a big reason why Xayah is good against these melee champions. Probably dead here, unless he can find a way to outplay it, but I don't think there's much more room for an outplay. Nope, okay. That kind of sucks. I think he played that pretty much as well as he could. I actually just go back a tiny little bit to see how this happened. So I think after taking the tower, he probably should have just walked back with Diana, but he got a bit greedy for the wave. I mean, I can understand it. I think I'd probably die here too. Oh, I see. Yeah, so he stayed too long. The enemy support and jungle came from bot side. He was forced to move top side, and Akali's there. So ultimately, it's a pretty bad death. Honestly, Akali does get a big shutdown, but I don't know. This is a kind of... It's like... It's sort of hard to avoid, not because it's like impossible to realize this is happening, but like sometimes if you play too safe every time, you're gonna miss plenty of windows like as well. So I don't really think it's like too bad a death. I don't think it's something that's gonna happen that often. So honestly, like yeah, if you play perfectly, you could avoid it, but it's not the end of the world. At least it was kind of a good death, right? Like he pushed the wave and the tower died, so obviously you got a lot of gold out of it. The first item, Eclipse. This is very nice, especially against the enemy team comp, but you're going to build this all the time anyway. This gives you the shield, gives you the life steal, so it's just like a really strong item. Also the lethality, sorry, I can't talk. It makes you very, very strong, and that's another reason that I really like the lethality builds, particularly on mid lane. Another thing that kind of ADC champs struggle with in mid is oftentimes they're very good in the 1v1, but they're quite weak at like skirmishing, because they're just like, normally they need items to kind of become strong, right? Like even if they bully 1v1 in like 2v2s and 3v3s, normally they're quite weak. But if you're building the lethality build, you're actually a lot stronger in the early game than other champions. And I think definitely if there's a fight right now, unless Yasuo gets like a massive ultimate, Xayah is gonna like way outperform him in terms of damage. And also, not only will she outperform him in like during the fight damage, but unlike Yasuo, she's actually gonna be able to land some poke as well. So if you are kind of thinking of picking this, I actually think it is a pretty decent blind pick. Like I was saying before, it does well into a lot of things mid. And also it's like sort of easy to play, and people will think it's bot lane like 90% of the time. So I think there's like a lot of things going for Xayah to make her pretty decent. I would say one thing she'll probably struggle with will be champions that can farm like without really having to fight you at all. So a champion like Lux, for example, where they don't really have to interact with you on the wave at all, would be kind of difficult. Also, any champions with sustain for your poke, something like Vladimir, I could see being kind of difficult. But I'm actually not too sure on that, because maybe Vlad could get bullied out enough in the early game. Obviously never played or seen the matchup, so I don't know for sure, but those are just kind of my expectations. So it looks like this Kai'Sa is pretty dead. Faker gets another kill kind of gifted to him. Oh, you like that. Building the Manamune second, I think that's definitely the best. And yeah, there are a lot of other VODs out there if you want to watch. Like I mentioned, there was like Chovy was playing Xayah, Doinby was playing Xayah. I can't remember what champion. I think Chovy played it versus Kai'Sa maybe. Can't remember what Doinby played it versus, but there's some other VODs out there if you did want to watch some more. I think here, the other towers haven't fallen, so Xayah can't really go to the side lane yet. Like, she's kind of still stuck in mid. But it would be nice, I think. Well, I don't know. On one hand, it's nice to go to the side wave because Xayah is a champion that can farm quickly. Like, she has sustain now with her Eclipse. She has a lot of mana, and she has wave clear, so she can very easily push waves and farm camps. That being said, in this game specifically, being in the side lane is quite scary because you're versus Nocturne Akali. I guess you could be versus Nocturne Yasuo, but either way, the Nocturne makes side laning much, much more difficult. So it might be that this team kind of plays 2 lanes rather than 3 lanes for most of the game. Because again, like, yeah, side laning versus the Nocturne is very, very scary. She might be able to survive with Exhaust and Eclipse, but if Akali's there, definitely not. Yeah, so here, this is like kind of the situation that occurs where like Lucian sort of has to come to mid because like if Lucian solos bot and Nocturne is bot as well, then Lucian just dies. And that's because like the Diana is top right, so Diana can't match the Nocturne. Okay, so Nocturne's diving mid. I mean, Lucian might just die even on mid wave. Okay, he had to burn both sums. But yeah, you can kind of see from a macro sense, especially because of the Nocturne in this game, the bot tower is just kind of forfeited to make plays on the top side. Unfortunately, that means like Faker is the one that kind of loses out on CS here. Ideally, he can get to this bot wave, but he doesn't go for it. I think probably could have got this bot wave, but makes a nice play on mid lane instead. So catches the Alistar. Going up a bit far. I'm not sure if it was the correct macro play, but like, it's not bad, right? Like, I think it's, if it is suboptimal, it's only like slightly worse. So I think overall, like, you're not going to say no to a kill, right? So pretty nice. Bases here. Probably has the mana immune, I think. He hasn't based in a while. Let's actually see. Yep, okay, so he has it. He's going to come on the map and start pushing out bot. So Nocturne has ult up again, but we have Diana near us. Okay, yeah, so see, actually there, if you guys can see, Diana did the right thing here, in my opinion. So Diana was hovering. You guys can see this? Yeah, okay. You can kind of see it. Diana was hovering towards Xayah on the map, and you actually see as soon as Nocturne ults, Diana actually passed and pings on the way towards the Xayah. Because that's where like Nocturne should be, in my opinion. But Nocturne actually goes on the Sumsless Lucian on top of the Nami and manages to kill him. So that's a big surprise to me. I'm actually very surprised that he managed to kill Lucian. Like, even though Lucian had no sums, he had a Nami and Gale Force and E. I wonder if Lucian had used his dash on the Raptor camp or something. So I'm not totally sure what happened there. I feel like Lucian should have been able to live, but I really like what Diana did there. And Faker was obviously playing with that knowledge of having Diana with him in mind. So that was like quite smart from him. Pushes the wave all the way in and actually gets the tower. Can't really push up any further because Lucian died. There's no control over mid wave anymore. So he just kind of has to come mid because he doesn't really have, like you can see the bot river, right? It's completely dark. He can't really be there anymore. Again, here it's like, if he goes bot lane right now, there's not enough vision. Like, he could definitely be ganked. And so the way to retake this vision is to kind of group on the mid wave and then like transition it down. Because it's solo queue, this is just going to turn into a fight rather than anything macro related. Has ult here, I think. Yep. Might have to flash. Okay, nice flash. So I think he kind of wasted his E there. He's going to have exhaust for this Nocturne, which is super, super nice. Surprising thing, but exhaust came out, I think, in season 0. I don't know. I didn't play back then, but normally, you know, the newer things tend to be better. Like the newest champ's the most broken, but exhaust, despite being one of the oldest things in the game, is actually still the best spell in the game. Completely hard counters Nocturne, makes him useless. One thing, interestingly, is that even though Nocturne kind of got fed, like he got like the shutdown onto Lucian, he's actually very useless into Xayah. Like, I really like Xayah into assassin picks, like assassin comps. Like, I think the matchup I don't really mind, but particularly like there's a lot of mid lane champs that would really struggle against like a champ like Nocturne. But a champ like Xayah, especially with exhaust and the Eclipse shield, just has like no trouble at all. And can really deal with him well. Not only does she have like the ult to kind of like avoid damage, but she can see CM. It's very easy for her to proc the spell shield as well. So on the way out, this is very nice. Take some camps, some jungle camps. This is very, very good. If you ever get the opportunity to do this, it's very, very useful. To take camps like after a lost fight or after a one fight. Denies him a lot of gold. The only like downside of this is that you do spend quite a lot of time on the map, and it means you can't base for a while. And that can be problematic if the enemy like rushes Baron, if there's an objective spawning soon, if you don't get to spend your gold. I actually think they are rushing Baron, right? Or are they not? Oh yeah, so it's definitely hitting it. Can't see the HP on it, but I think this is a very easy situation for Xayah to play out. You can see here all the threats were used on champions that weren't Xayah. And I would be surprised if Xayah even takes damage this fight. I actually kind of want to go back and show you guys this because it's a super one fight, but I actually think this is a fight where, like, the fight was won from Xayah's perspective before the fight even started. Like, there's a lot of fights where you have to play well mechanically or you have to make decisions in the fight, but this fight was very, like, it was very just like decided beforehand. Basically, very nice positioning on the way in. So, well, there's like a lot of things actually. First off, Xayah does have the tools to fight. While she doesn't have her sum, she does have her ult. Another thing is that she's positioned with another carry with the Lucian. So we kind of talked about in like positioning in some of the champion guides, how like if you're playing a DPS champion, like an AD carry or a mage, you kind of want to be like in line or with the backline. Basically, you just really don't want to be near the enemy threats. And you can see here that the big threats like the Alistar combo, the Yasuo ult, the Noxian ult, Akali ult, there's actually a lot of threats to be careful of, to be fair, but they're all used here, and Xayah's like actually not close to any of them. It's a very, very easy fight for her to play out. She's just gonna like max DPS, pretty much nothing to be scared of. Like I said, she barely takes damage. Yeah, I mean, it's really just like pretty easy. One thing I didn't notice actually is the lucidity boots. I think that probably is the best. Like, I think attack speed's not going to do too much for you when you're playing the lethality build. And lucidity, quite nice, obviously for the CDR, for poking, but also for the sum cooldown. Xayah makes very good use of her sums, obviously with the flash E, and also like exhaust being so good against the enemy team comp. So Baron is taken. This is pretty much the nail in the coffin. How long do we have on the VOD? Okay, we got a few more minutes, probably just going to be cleaning up. Taking another jungle camp here. There's like a few things with this. Okay, so I'll like explain this. So after you get Baron, generally you want to base and be like as active on the map as possible, right? Because you want to spend as much time of your Baron like pressuring the map. That being said, there is not much point Faker basing until the Diana bases. And actually, I wonder if he's going to base at all. Because what I was going to say is that like, okay, so if you look here, like Lucian and Nami based, right? So they want to pressure the map, but Diana's still farming and Xayah's still farming. So like if Xayah were to base here and Diana's still farming, there's not really that much they can do because I have to wait for all 5 members to be on the map. So yeah, I don't think he wanted to base there. I am surprised he didn't base here, and I guess the reason is that he wants to take all these 3 top camps. Obviously, it is a lot of gold. I think if you do this, you actually can't base. So I'm kind of interested to see what he does here, because I think if you take these 3 camps and then do base, I think your tempo is just so bad. Like, I think it's just like too much time wasted. I think if you're planning to stay on the map though, this could be a play. Okay, so he is definitely planning to stay on the map, so he's going to pressure the Baron, so I do like that. If he had based there, it would have been very bad at the end of doing all that. That being said, I do feel like he has a ton of gold, so I'm not totally sure. Okay, he's basing now. Honestly, I think it's really bad that he did this. I think kind of had to commit. Does get a full item, he does get the Sereldas, but you see a huge amount of their Baron was wasted and the Diana was caught on top lane. You can argue that it was like Diana's fault for like pushing too far, and I mean that is true, right? Like Diana could have played safer, but I think in this kind of situation, Faker has he had like way too much confidence in the solo queue macro. I think he's probably used to playing, you know, on comms with T1, right? So it's probably pretty different, but yeah, I think it was like pretty greedy what he did here. That being said, if you commit to this greed like he did, you know, this was a very like Chovy-esque decision, I think, like maximizing the farm. It does allow you to carry, you know, like Faker is a player that can definitely be trusted with gold, right? So I don't hate the decision, I guess, from that perspective. Like, okay, that was a nice try, but didn't quite work out. Yeah, obviously, like, he's very, very fed, and I think he's gonna have no problem killing everyone here. I do think the game probably could have been ended if he had based before, though, but I'm not gonna harp on it because, you know, Faker's a lot better player than me, right? So I'm not really one to critique literally everything about him. Does he just destroy this guy? Yep, absolutely annihilated. Actually, I will say another thing here quickly before the VOD kind of ends. One advantage of like always being in the side lane and taking these jungle camps is that you end up very high level compared to everyone else in the game. And I think a lot of people think that AD carries don't need levels because levels are less important. Like, levels are less important on AD carries than like a mage champ, for example, but levels are still extremely important. Like, they give you base stats, especially when you're playing a spellcaster build like this. It actually does mean quite a bit. So Yeah, I actually think like if you can be in the side lane, if you can be in the side lane, gather up a lot of like XP, a lot of gold, a lot of jungle camps, it's very, very good, especially on these mid lane AD carries that kind of need to stay ahead of the curve to kind of be relevant in the game. Hopefully this was good, guys. I think there was like a lot of macro stuff in here that was quite interesting. Overall, I think Faker played like really damn well. I mean, it's Faker, right? Like he's 9-1-3. 210 CS, 24 minutes, pretty good for a solo queue game. So yeah, I guess before this video ends, actually, I will explain a few things kind of about AD carry mids in general. So one thing, I don't normally recommend AD carries to people like in mid lane because their execution level is quite high. Either you have AD carry mids like Lucian where you have to play your lane like very, very well. And like I think Lucian's quite good and I think Lucian's quite fun, but it is quite difficult. Even though I think Lucian is not the most difficult champion, the playstyle is quite difficult. And then you have other AD carry mids, say like Xayah, where their trading pattern is like really weird. And there's like a lot of champions that are quite difficult to trade into. And honestly, a lot of the time the payoff isn't super good. Like I guess Xayah's quite a good payoff because she scales quite well with the AP build, but like a champion like Lucian, very good in the late game, but if you don't kind of like snowball the early game, in the mid game can be quite difficult. Xayah, on the other hand, she has a lot of things going for her. She does well in the melees, she can farm, she has wave clear, she has CC, she has safety, and she's like building items that are somewhat forgivable, right? Like she's got the lifesteal and the shield. I kind of just like wanted to give you guys a quick summary about why I think Xayah mid is quite a bit better than the other AD carry mids, and something that I would like suggest to you guys picking up as an AD champ. Like if you enjoy it, right? Obviously, if it's not fun for you, don't play it. But yeah, I think that's it for this video, guys. Hopefully the stuff we went over was quite useful. Sorry I kind of like rewind a bit, but sometimes it's just like too much for me to talk about. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe. See you next time.